Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Shyla. I'm currently 17 and I am now a mother, which is actually what I wanted to tell you guys about. Unfortunately, I was not able to record my birth experience, but I am able to give you guys a story time. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Also, I am going to be showing my daughter for the first time on YouTube at the end of this video, so if you're interested to see what she looks like, what her name is, all that good stuff, it'll be at the very end, so stay tuned. So our story time begins the day previous to when she was actually born, so that would be August 15th. I was actually out on a date with my boyfriend, my child's father, and excuse the noise if you hear children in the background. Those are my siblings. They're running in the yard, and I'm right near a window, so, and it's open because it's hot, so don't mind them if you hear them. But we were actually on a date, and while we were in the middle of our date, because we went out to eat, I had started like these odd pains in my stomach, and I was like, okay, like this is weird, and they actually began to get stronger to a point which was very concerning, and I was no longer able to really eat because it was just too much stress on my stomach, and I was like, I don't want to eat because I felt like I might throw up with all this pain. So he actually ended up calling over the waiter and letting them know that we were done with our food, and we decided to just go. He wanted to take me to the hospital, but I was being stubborn, if I'm being honest, and I was like, no, I don't really feel like going to the hospital, because if it's not the real thing, then, you know, and you have to get to a certain point with your contractions, like they have to last a certain amount of time and they have to be consistent, like, or else they're gonna send you home. And I didn't feel like driving all the way to the hospital just to get sent all the way home. It just felt like too much of a hassle, so I was like, I might as well just wait it out. And it was still bearable at that point. It was just uncomfortable, but I could still bear it. So we ended up just chilling for a little while, and then I started to get pain, not in my stomach, but in my hips. And this is what got me, if I'm being honest. It was very, very painful. Um, I wasn't crying or anything, but it was just a lot to bear. It was just a lot to bear. So I actually still was being stubborn at this time, and I was like, no, it's not that bad. It's not consistent enough. So I ended up going home. He ended up taking me home. And then literally, guys, literally, I was home for maybe 10-15 minutes, and then I asked my mom, I was like, Mom, do you think I should go to the hospital, because I'm like having pain like in my hips, but I don't think that's a contraction, because that's not the way contractions were described to me. The way it felt and the way it was like happening was not how it was described to me, so I wasn't expecting it. But while I was waiting for him to actually come back and get me, because my mom had told me to go to the hospital, she said if you're not familiar with the pain, it's never happened before, you should probably go, especially if you're this late in your pregnancy. So I ended up going to the hospital. While I'm waiting for him, I noticed that it comes in waves now, and I'm like, oh wait, these might actually be contractions. But it didn't fully hit me yet that I could possibly be in labor and that my child could be being born within hours. But when we actually ended up going to the hospital, we went in through the ER, and I was taken up to the evaluation room so that they could hook me up to a machine and check the baby's heart rate, my blood pressure, contractions if I was having any, and they would also see how many centimeters dilated I was at that point. So once I actually got my cervix checked, the lady literally told me, and I kid you not, oh, you're about 4.5 centimeters dilated. My heart, bro, like I was not ready. My whole world just went boom. Like I was like, what? I started crying because I was just like so emotional about it. Because like for the past weeks, like the past couple of weeks before I had given birth, I had just really wanted to meet my daughter, and like I had cried about it and confessed to my boyfriend about it and how much I really just wanted to meet her, you know. Because I expected her to come earlier than what she did, but I'm grateful for it because she still had time to develop and she didn't have any complications during birth. But it was just very scary because I was like, oh wait, like this is actually happening, like no warning at all. She was like, oh, you're 4.5 centimeters dilated, but it was just very shocking to hear her confirm that I was actually in labor and that my child was coming soon. So actually, in the ER, my boyfriend and I had got separated because while I was being taken up to the evaluation room, he had to go move his car and park it. So I had to go up by myself with a nurse. Um, but they weren't letting him up, but I told the nurse that I had someone here with me and they hadn't come up yet. And I actually ended up leaving my phone in the car like a doofus. So he actually ended up coming up into the building and sitting in the waiting room, and no one was like, you know, and I didn't have my phone on me, so he couldn't get in touch with me or anything like that. So I actually had to just tell a nurse, and they called down for him, and then he was let up. And then I told him, I was like, I'm 4.5 centimeters dilated. Like, this baby is coming, like, now. So he was super excited to hear that. I think he was also a little bit shocked, too, because he was like, oh, okay. But I know he was happy about it. So they actually brought up a wheelchair for me and they took me to the room where I would give birth. And to be honest with y'all, I was chilling for a good minute. I was chilling. Like I was watching Law and Order on the TV, and anyone who knows me personally knows that I'm obsessed with Law and Order SVU. I would watch it all day if I could. Like I don't know what it is. I just love the show. But I was just watching that on the TV, and then the nurses came in and they asked me like if I was getting an epidural or anything, and I did get an epidural because even though I was being very strong in those beginning stages, dealing with those contractions with no help at all, I knew that I was gonna get only worse from then. And to be honest, with my first child, I was a little scared, so you know, I got the epidural, which was an experience, if I'm being honest, because it was a lot of feelings and sensations that I had never before experienced. Especially with, and if I'm not mistaken, the catheter being put in, I felt that go down, like up against my spine. And anyone who knows how an epidural goes knows, like, it was very uncomfortable. And there was this burning feeling, and apparently there were a lot of needles, and I actually ended up breaking down at one point, and I think this was actually when the catheter was stuck into me. That was just what broke me. Like I just started crying, and it was hard because I was crying, but I couldn't move because I didn't want to mess up what they were doing. Because in that area of my spine, if I would have moved like any bit, it probably could have caused some damage that might not be so easily fixed. So I was just crying and trying to stay still. My boyfriend was holding me and trying to, like, you know, calm me down. The nurse was reassuring me that I was doing such a good job. So was I want to say anesthesiologist. If I'm incorrect, let me know down below. But yeah, so they were all just like encouraging me and telling me that I was doing so good and it was fine and it was almost done, and eventually it was. And after that, they left me and my boyfriend alone to get some sleep. He slept. Not much because it kept waking him up, but he slept more than I did. I unfortunately did not get that much rest because of the contractions. And mind you, these contractions I didn't feel them as much, but there was like a lot of pressure in my stomach. So that kept waking me up out of my sleep, and I'm like, you know, just staring at the TV, drinking apple juice, you know, because I couldn't eat anything. I was just sitting at the TV, sitting watching TV and drinking apple juice and drifting in and out of sleep for like maybe an hour and a half. And then the nurses came back and they were like, hey, we're gonna check to see how many centimeters dilated you are now. And I'm thinking I'm gonna be like maybe 6 or 7, not have made that much progress. I don't remember the number that they told me, but when they actually did like check my cervix, she told me that she felt the bag, like the bag was right there, and she popped it. She popped the bag, and let me tell you, that was the weirdest feeling ever. It literally feels like peeing on yourself, but having no control over it. And it wasn't like, oh my god, it's so nasty. Like I literally was just laughing because it felt so weird. I was like, oh my gosh, this is such an odd feeling. But after they broke my water, they were like, oh, well, it's time to push. And I was like, oh, okay. So I ended up waking up my boyfriend, who was asleep. And ended up waking him up. And I ended up telling him, like, oh, it's time for me to push now. And he's like, oh, okay. And he's waking himself up and whatnot. Then all the people who are going to assist with my birth start coming in, introducing themselves, saying, hi, how are you? You know, we're gonna do such a great job, you know, and all that good stuff. So after everybody like got settled in and they readjusted the bed, and all that, my boyfriend came over and he was actually holding up one of my legs. I think they had me in a couple positions during birth. But I had my legs held up by these like support things for your legs when you give birth. I'll insert a picture over here. But yeah, I had my legs held up by one of those. At a point, they had a bar that I would like hold on to and try to push, and I tried a lot of different positions. Then I was just straight up, you know, just regularly pushing on my back and whatnot. I actually had a couple problems during the pushing stage. I did a great job. My doctors did tell me that I did a good job pushing. It wasn't my fault or anything at all. The issue had been that my baby's head was not facing down like it should have been. It was actually turned upwards towards the pelvic bone. So she was having a hard time moving down and out. So I actually ended up pushing for a long time until she was actually to a point where the doctor was able to, you know, put his hand in and like guide her out. But this took some time, and I actually, because I had got no sleep, I was actually really, really tired, and I actually ended up having to take a break because I was tired and I was breaking down and just like crying, like unstop, like just nonstop crying. And they're like, you know what, we're gonna give you a break for a couple minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll see where your head's at and whatnot, and then we'll just go from there. I was like, okay. So that like little break really helped a lot. It definitely was what I needed, because when they came back in and they were like, oh, are you okay now? I was like, I'm ready to do this. Like, I can do this. I can definitely do this. I just needed that reset for those couple of minutes, you know. But after they came back in, they were like, okay. I let them know that I was ready to go, and I was willing to like do what I had to do to get this baby out. Um, Especially because at that point I was worried that her birth wouldn't be a safe one, because, and not because of anything that the doctors were doing or anything like that, simply because of the fact that because I couldn't get her out on my own, they were talking about using tools to assist me, such as a suction cup to pull her head out, or using forceps. Both things could potentially harm her. they're they're effective as in getting the child out, but can sometimes cause minor problems. And I don't know what exactly, I don't remember what exactly. Feel free to research it if you're curious. But yeah, and I was just like, I don't want her to be hurt at all, so I'm gonna try to do this on my own. Like, I am gonna do this on my own. So after that, after I got that little break and that reset, started to push again. I'm still tired, but what they were allowing me to do was I just slept in between contractions. Like, I don't know how long it was. I was not conscious during this period. I really don't remember much about it because I literally was drifting in and out of consciousness. Like, I was asleep at a point, but still listening to what a doctor was saying while they were talking to me about the forceps and stuff. Which is why I'm like, I don't really remember because I was still kind of half asleep. Like, just opening my eyes, waking up, like trying to wake myself up, hearing them. It was a lot at that point. But once I had that break, I gained my confidence back and I pushed this baby out as hard as I could. Every time they woke me up when it was time to push, I gave it my absolute all. And before I knew it, and the sun was actually coming up. And I was like, oh, okay. Because when I was admitted into the hospital, it was actually nighttime. So at one point, when I was pushing in this like second portion of it, I noticed that the sun was coming up and it was morning time. And I was like, okay. So I was like, dang, how long have I actually been pushing? Like, they were like, oh, you've been pushing for 3 hours. And I was like, oh my God, really? So I actually ended up pushing for a total of 3 hours. And it did not feel that long, to be honest. And maybe it was because of the fact that I slept and I kept drifting in and out of consciousness. So maybe my awareness of the time wasn't that well. And especially because I didn't have my phone. Because my boyfriend didn't know I left it in the car. So he ended up coming up without grabbing it. But yeah. Everyone at this point, when I was pushing, and I had my eyeballs closed, by the way, because I was just like straining, trying to like really like put my all into it and just focus. I'm saying my mantra in my head. I'm breathing. I'm counting. Like, I was doing everything that I was taught and that I learned from doing research. Um, but I, like, at this point, I'm hearing everyone just shout, and not aggressively or anything, just telling me, come on, she's almost here. You can do it. And then I hear my baby cry. And I open my eyes and I'm like, what? I was like, did I just do that? And I didn't feel it. That's the thing. So maybe it was just kind of like surreal. But she was definitely there. And let me tell you, this child had a pair of lungs, okay? She was screaming her head off. Screaming. Hollering. Like somebody was trying to murder her. And I'm like, who knew newborns was this loud? Like, I've never heard a newborn be that loud. And maybe it's just because that was like her first cry. I don't know. But I always thought that when a baby was first born, they were just generally quiet, and then they got louder over time. She's just always been loud. So that was nothing new. Um, so when she was actually out, the doctors were then like transitioning her over to the table so she'd get ointment put on her eyes, and so she could take care of and everything. She'd get her cord cut. Her dad did cut it. Like, I wanted him to, but like this whole time I'm like trying to break my neck and look at my baby, like, and I can't see because I'm leaned all the way back and she's like all the way down there past my legs, and I'm like trying to see and I can't get up because half my body is numb, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I like look over my boyfriend. I'm like, is she okay? Is she okay? He's like, yeah, she's fine. She's fine. And I'm like, okay. Like, and I just relaxed for a bit. Um, I got stitched up while they were taking care of her, and when I was all done, she was already swaddled, and they brought her over and put her on my chest, and she just fell asleep. The whole experience truly was beautiful. It was something that I genuinely just I can't even describe the feeling that it gave me. Um, but yeah. So as promised, I am gonna show you guys some pictures and videos of my baby girl. I'm gonna put everything up over here. By now she's already 3 weeks by the time I'm filming this. I did film this initially when she was only 1 week, but because of technical difficulties, the video was not up. But yeah, that's all the pictures and videos of her and everything over these past couple of weeks, which have definitely been an experience, let me tell you. A lot of hard times, a lot of good times. But, you know, that's just being a mother, being a parent, just being a parent. Just, it's a lot. It's a lot of different feelings. But it's all worth it in the end. The kids make it worth it. But if you made it this far into the video, thank you so much. Please leave a like or anything, comment, talk to me, anything. I really, really want to be able to interact with you guys. So if you're out there watching and you want to drop an idea or anything, just say hi, please. Don't be afraid. But with that, I will see you guys.